All right, my friends, welcome back. I'm the Zim. This is the Zim video. This is the Art Professors podcast. For those of you that are new around here, I'm an art professor currently at Northwest Missouri State University. Before that, I taught at San Diego State University. Before that, I got my MFA at San Diego State University. Before that, I went to the University of Washington for my BFA. So I've been doing some art for a while. It's who I am. It's what I do. And welcome. This is the, I think, 5th episode of the podcast. This is where we just break down kind of the experience of being an art professor. If you have any questions for me, make sure you jump into the comment section and let us know what those questions are. And also a reminder that this is a podcast, even though I'm using YouTube as my primary place that I'm putting it out to the world, it is still just a podcast. So feel free to drop the phone in your pocket and go for a walk. You don't have to watch the video. It's an audio. I'm a kind of a podcast purist, and I believe the word podcast really represents an audio only format. But of course, nowadays, a lot of people use it for video podcasts and a lot of different things. But for me, this is basically an audio only format. I rarely ever show anything on the screen that you need to look at. And if I do, I usually don't need to look at it. I just felt like showing it on the screen. Maybe down the line, I'll start publishing this on your favorite podcast catcher, iTunes or whatever, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, places like that. But for now, we're just doing YouTube. Let's see if we can grow this. I mean, right now I'm getting like 50 views on each one of these kind of thing. So if we get up to the couple hundred, thousands of views, then I'll look at switching over. Hopefully we can grow this audience. Hopefully there's more people interested in this kind of journey. It's a free form, open conversation about what it means to be an art professor, especially from the perspective of somebody new into this game, which I think is potentially an advantage that I have new ideas. I have new ways of thinking about it. I'm seeing what's been done already, and I'm trying to approach it from a fresh perspective and my own perspective and make it the best I can. This week I'm not sure what the title of this podcast will be, but this week was my first week of actual classes at Northwest Missouri State University, which was great. I am completely exhausted. I want to say as well, welcome any new people to the video. I think we might have some to the podcast. I think we might have some new people because now a bunch of my students know about me online. My online personality will start to disseminate among my students. I have a bunch of them following me on Instagram. So hello, we will be talking about you today, but not you specifically, but you in general, just comparing my experience with what I'm doing at Northwest Missouri State with what I've done before at San Diego State and other places. And we'll see where that, just to try to give a holistic view of what it means to be an art professor. And like I was saying, hopefully we can grow this conversation to other people that have been interested in, maybe that's your journey, and maybe that's what you want to do. And maybe that's, maybe you've been doing it for a while and you're looking for a different perspective on it. Different things like that. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure how long this will be. I'm trying to think the 45 minute mark is what I try to go for. We'll see if I hit it. I have a few things listed here. Again, if there's something specific you want me to talk about or bring up, let me know. But today we'll start with what have I learned about myself in this journey. First week of school, what has it been like? What's the difference between teaching at San Diego State versus teaching at Northwest Missouri State University? What are the students like? What is the rhythm like? What are the different things? Okay, some significant differences right out the gate that I can think of are the students themselves seem to be less addicted to technology or are intimidated by technology. I can't figure out yet what is the reality. If it's because when I taught at State, anything, especially any class that was graphic design related, any class that you would be using a computer as your primary tool, it was open from day one. It was like people were in it. I had to basically ask people to close them in a way, or I would remind them, like, let's make sure your attention's up here, kind of. Oftentimes I wouldn't mind it at all. I would let them still have their laptops open and things, but I do like little meditation, mind body things at the beginnings of my classes. So that at those points is when I say, hey, let's just turn our phones over or close our laptops and just give ourselves a moment to breathe or stretch or whatever we're going to do that day. But these classes, and maybe it's just because it's, I don't know. I don't remember my first day of classes, any class that had anything to do with technology. Laptops were open from the get. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but here, like, nobody has their laptops open. And I just curious about why. Like, I don't know yet why students aren't already have their laptops open. Maybe they understand there's a level of respect that it makes sense, or maybe there's a level of intimidation, like they have to be prompted to do the things. Like, maybe they're just not as hungry to get started in a way. They're just kind of like, whatever. I don't know. I can't figure it out what it is, because I feel both. I actually feel kind of both. I feel like some students are intimidated by the technology. At San Diego State, this is something I might have talked about before, but and maybe it's a bigger university thing or arts, I don't know. But the fact that we don't have, so at San Diego State, every student got the Adobe Creative Cloud software. Every student in the entire college had access to the Adobe Creative Cloud software for free. For free. At first, the first year I started, it was $20 for a year. I mean, that was even better, but like, or something like that, where like right now, if you're a student anywhere, you can get the Adobe Creative Cloud for like $20 a month. Still a great deal. But then like it went like, oh, when I first started, when I was a graduate student there, I learned, oh, you just had to pay $20 for an entire year. That was awesome. And then they switched to like, everybody got it for free, which is like, I've just got used to that. So when I'm talking to students and talking to them about the technology they're going to need to use for the classes, I still feel apprehensive and personally intimidated by saying, yeah, you're going to have to pay $20 a month. Like, and I know, and it feels to me like it can be a burden to some students still. So, and we do have technology, like we do have, in my classroom, we have a laptop cart and they have access to that. But it's, if you're only going to be using, it's like, you're not going to be able to achieve what you should be achieving as a student if you're only accessing, especially as an artist, if you're only accessing the tools you need in a limited time. It really feels, I mean, I guess you could argue that in a lot of ways. Like if you're doing wood shop classes, you're not going to have your own saws and stuff like that, so you're going to have to time manage. It could be seen that way. But I don't know. I really feel like if you're a graphic design, especially, but any art major, like you really need to find ways to have the tools you need as makes sense as possible. Like, of course, it would be hard for everybody to have a table saw if you're in wood shop. You know, not everybody can have so there makes sense that certain things like that would be communities. But I mean, everybody really should have their own computer that works for what they need to do at this point. I mean, that should just be a given. The school itself gives out computers, Windows-based computers, and I don't know yet how well they handle some of the Adobe Creative Cloud software. Probably in most of my classes, it would be fine to use it, but there is a Mac, lab. There's a Mac, a Macintosh kind of, I don't know what's in there. I think they look like iMacs, like, decent iMacs. And then there's also a MacBook Pro laptop cart that they have access to, but they can only use those during times when it's open to use them. They can't be working in the middle of the night at home on their projects if they're limited to using the technology on. So it's just I'm still learning how to navigate that conversation with this institution. I don't know what's appropriate to ask totally and expect. But they do have basically right now, my way of saying is as students, they're responsible for the technology, whether that means they can have it on their own or whether that means they need to come in and use it. So if they need to come in and use it, they need to time manage. But it just, I don't know. I would, as a student myself, I feel like I wouldn't want to be restricted that way. I would feel like I would want to find a way to make sure I had $20 a month to buy the Adobe Creative Cloud, find a way to get a computer that can handle it, and work that way. That's what I would do. I encourage my students to ask people in their life to support them to get, especially art students, all my students are art students. So in graphic design, I encourage them to get a MacBook Pro and like start right now. Like ask your parents to invest in that with you. And maybe that becomes your birthday or Christmas present for the next 5 years. And that's all you get. And that's all expected. But maybe you can get into one right away. The way that I see it right now, like basically any MacBook Pro will be fine. Just the only upgrade that they would probably want to consider is upgrading the hard drive space. Probably I'm working on a 500 gigabyte hard drive that's just way too small. So like 1,000, like a terabyte would be great, or something like that. Or 500 is okay if you have enough external hard space. I work with a lot of video, so that eats up a lot of the space. But if you're not working with video, then it can work out to, I suppose, with a smaller one. But those are some of the ideas and I've had it in the past. I've brought that up with some of my former students, and they come back to me and say, hey, my parents are buying me a MacBook Pro. And like, all right, great, let's go, let's make it happen. So, and I just say, you can't hurt to ask. It can't hurt to try, especially if this is what they want to be doing. It's like, start now, get the technology now and have it. So because one of the things I talk about to my students, and I talked about many times this week, was, you can't kind of force creativity to happen within a certain time every day. It's like, a lot of us artists do set time aside, but how much time aside do we set, and how does that work for you? For me, I need a big chunk. I need like a whole day, because I can't just have an hour and a half and say, I'm going to be creative. So it usually takes me like that long to figure it out in a way. Maybe not that long, but it takes me like 20 minutes or 30 minutes sometimes to get in my studio, turn the music on, get my tea made or whatever I'm using. It's like, it takes time to ramp up into that. And when you're a student, bouncing from different studio classes, and not only studio classes, but from a studio class to your math class or whatever other requirements you're doing, it's like those transitions can be difficult as a creative person. So if you don't have adequate time to actually get into that mode of making and thinking creatively, you need to do it outside of class time. You need to do more work outside of class time. The way that this school works, I wish I should have looked this up. I feel like my classes were definitely longer than, they were like 2.5 hours, 2 hours, maybe even, they weren't 3 hours when I was at San Diego State. They were over 2 hours. They were close to 2.5. Maybe they were like 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. Maybe they were around that range. I don't remember. The classes here at Northwest Missouri are 1 hour and 50 minutes, which is really short for studio classes. And so it'll be interesting to see how we navigate it together as a class, because again, the thing that I want to basically train my students to, understand their personal workflows. So I want them to come into this space as if it's their own space. So what can make it comfortable for them? What do they need to do so they can come into this space and it's their space? I know I personally don't mind it when my students wear headphones. I don't make a lot of restrictions on other technology if their phones are out and things like that. I do ask them to be respectful, but I'm not like, there's a lot of professors that are much more strict about technology and how it exists around them. But for me, to be creative, you have to be comfortable. And everybody's comfort is in a different place. I talked about this last time. Like, I am personally using my own laptop as starting, because I'm just not comfortable using the Windows machine the school gave me. Not even comfortable using the other Mac that they gave me. It's like the keyboard is that whatever era Mac was where there was barely any travel in the keyboard. It's really hard to use that way. And just like, there's just other things that actually kind of smell like, I think the previous person that used it wore a lot of perfume or something because it smells weird. It's like, so there's like a lot of different things that, affecting my comfort level. So I want my students to be able to get as comfortable as possible as soon as possible, especially considering these studio classes are fairly short. So what can I do to help facilitate that with them and let them know that this is their space? I make sure they know that they can get up whenever they need to. They can do that kind of thing. The little things. We play music in the classroom. That's what I do when we're working. Just on our work, I'll put music on. It kind of like, I have a really my personal way of working in the classroom is I can't stand a quiet, sterile classroom. Especially as an art classroom. And maybe other artists have different philosophies, like we want it quiet and focus. I think it works better with energy, like feeding off of each other, especially in this group environment. Like if you want it quiet and separate, I don't know, do that on your own time. But when we're working as a community, let there be a little bit of energy in the room between each other, and how that works. And that's just the way I run it. And I suppose there's others. I'm sure there's got to be another, and you may think this way, and great. If this is the way that works for you, it's like you want a really quiet space so that like it feels like maybe if there is music playing, each person has to have it on their headphones, and it's like, but like the open space is super quiet. Maybe you have a philosophy that's what you believe will inspire creativity. I don't personally like that way. I personally want there to be a tangible, palpable energy within the room. That's what I want. And when there's music playing, when there's people talking to each other, that's what I feel like can inspire that. And I want to build community, because that's the other thing. Like sometimes it can be intimidating to break that silence for somebody, especially if you are naturally kind of a shy person. But if the room is already kind of bustling, that naturally shy person may be willing to speak up or go find me and talk to me or whatever it might be. There might be a way to break that. I don't know. You could. I suppose this is a great topic for debate. Sometimes maybe I'll get to the opportunity to do a forum of some kind, a panel where we talk about the environment, the classroom environment, and what works better or not. And this will be my argument about it. And I would love to do that sometime. That would be great. Something like that. So let's see some of the things that I personally learned about this first week of classes, the way that I structured it. So it's thankfully for me, in a way, I've heard from a lot of the students that normally the school year starts midweek. This year it actually started on a Monday, which is I think is really great, because it just makes it even, it just makes it really even. So this first week for all my classes none of my classes we did any actual work yet. It was all setting up the environment. The first day was setting up the community. I have 5 classes, but 4 classes that meet twice a week, 1 class that meets once a week. And I'll just go through I'll go through them in the order that they happen. My first class I am in is a typography class. It's about 11 students. No, sorry, scratch that. First class is my digital photography class, about 11 students. It's a quiet group. It's nice, kind of intimate. We have 11 students. We start all my classes except for all of my classes except for, well, actually, no, I take it back. 3 of my 5 classes, we do this little icebreaker thing I've been refining over the years. So depending on how many people there are, we divide the class in half, and then we line up with each other face to face. So there's 2 lines of people looking at each other face to face. One line stays static, the other line will move. For 3 minutes at a time, I set a timer on my phone. You just talk to the person across from you and get to know them, and you have 3 minutes to kind of go back and forth, ask different questions. What's your favorite color? Where are you from? If you already know each other, you can say like, how was your summer? Whatever it might be. And while they're doing this, they're taking notes on each other. And then every 3 minutes, we rotate, one line rotates until everybody has talked to each other across from you. And then we split those 2 lines up into 2 separate groups and basically fold them over. So let's say each line was 10 people long. The next group will be 5 on, like 2 groups, or basically kind of 4 groups of 5. And then we would do that same process and one line would move, one line would stay. And then after that, those 4 lines will then break up and just form a little circle. And then you do that process again where you just talk across, do like a 5-person get to know each other, or depending on how big the class was kind of thing. And so that's where we start. We do that. Everybody's taking notes on each other, learning about it. And then we get into a big circle and we do this kind of process where the person across from you introduces you. And usually it's a wedge. Usually it's like 2 or 3 people across from one person. So the 3 people will introduce the one person. And it starts with like, hi, I'm Zim. I'm introducing Jenny. And I learned that Jenny likes the color blue, and the next person is like, hi, my name is Frank. I'm introducing Jenny. And I learned Jenny likes to go horseback riding. It's like those. And then we just kind of click around the circle and do that. And it gets people knowing who they are. Maybe some people don't, will discover some common interests. Oh, it's like, oh, I'm from that place too. Or I like movies too. Or I like whatever it is, So it starts to, it gets the environment talking to each other. It gets the environment, it gets community building is really important to me. And I think it works for the most part. The classes that, yeah, I think it works for the most part. I feel like the energy is good. I feel like nobody hates it. I did have one student that was a little surprised that I was going to be a part of it too. I was like, yeah, I'm part of this community too. They were just like, oh, I have to talk to my teacher. There's some of my younger students. It goes both ways. Some of them are eager to get to know me as a professor. Some of them are like still maybe have that, high school nature of things, like there's a division, or they're just used to there being a division between the professor and the students, where I'm not that way. I'm like, we are a community together. And I know there's still lots of college level professors that like that orientation of being, I'm the person that knows more, and they want that. I'm not that type of professor. One of the things that I told my students a few times, I don't think I told every class, but was there's a desk in the front of my class, and I said, you'll never see me sitting at that desk, because it's like there is this perception. I'm a big perception person. It's like how things are perceived. What we make judgments on things visually first. We see something, we make a judgment on it, and then we either give it a chance to change our judgment, or we dig in and think that's the way it is. It's kind of how we, as people, kind of can tend to perceive things. So one of the things I make sure that my students know, and what I want is, how I revolve in the space is like, I try to avoid as much as possible this I'm your professor, look up at me kind of vibe. It's more like we are in this class together to all learn and grow. I'm here to learn and grow, to be a better professor, to learn more about you. Like I'm here at just as much to learn things. You're here to learn what I have to offer you. It's like we're both here to learn. We're both here to grow. It's just our roles are just slightly different. And they are now, for the most part, adults. I know it's sometimes hard to see it, maybe as we get older. As people, we still see they are still young, especially like the first years and those things. There's definitely a youngness that's still, but the truth is, I believe I want to treat them as adults and expect them to act as adults. And if I am still putting myself in a position of authority above them and attached to that position of authority, how can you allow them to stand in their own position of authority as an adult? I think that's something worth considering and thinking about. So it's like, if we're all in it together, then I think that helps the growth, because I still have it. My professors from my graduate school experience, it's really hard still for me, even though I'm like older than all of them, it's still hard for me to see myself as like a peer to them, because they were my professor. It's like it's entrenched in our society kind of way, but you can either exacerbate that idea, or you can kind of try to find a kind of way to ease it a little bit. And I try to find the way to ease it. So one of the things, like I said, I just won't sit at the desk like I'm the professor. I circle the room. I try to have as many opportunities to make the room a circle as well. Like after we do our little get to know each other, we form the circle. It's like the circle. I'm a big fan of the circle. as many times as we can use the circle to talk to each other. I want to. So first class, digital photography. Second class is the class that I'm personally most excited about. And I've discovered even within this short period of time, what I think I want my future to be as an art professor. But my second class is the two-dimensional design class. It's like the foundations class, and it's all first years or really, first years or maybe some sophomores, but I think mostly first years. But it's that opportunity to talk to students. This is my largest class. There's like 25 or 6 students. I think it started at like 20. I think 28's the max. I think I had 27 for a minute. I think one person, I think I'm at 25 now. One person left before class started. One person left after the first day. So now I think I'm at 25, which is great. Nice, good number. They all seem, it's pretty energetic. Bigger class, so obviously more personalities. Trying to navigate, obviously, well, I don't know, obviously. For me, my goal is to be, like, for all my classes, to be the best professor they've ever had. And how can I do that? And I believe the best way for me to do that is to be a human being and let them know that I'm there to support them, regardless of the content. Whatever the content is, we'll get through that. But if they know that I'm there to support them and I hear them and I see them, I feel like most of the students will recognize that. Some won't ever, because they just, whatever their story is prevents them from allowing support to happen. Or they're so attached to if a student is so attached to the idea of being in college means I want to learn everything about that topic, then I feel like they are missing the point, and they're missing so much. But if you're a student that's open to discovery, you go to college to learn about yourself as a person and people around you and ideas, those are the students that'll get the most out of me. But there are definitely, and it's been in the past, like some students just they feel like they're paying them money for this topic. And it's like, man, you're missing so much opportunity if that's all you're thinking about is the topic. We know you want to develop relationships, you want to meet people, you want to discover something new about yourself, you want to have conversations, you want to just, like, there's so much more than just the topic. You'll get study the topic, and then a lot of these topics, especially in art, you don't even need to go to college to get your education in these topics. You just pull up Google and Masterclass and all the things they have now available online. All the topics that we're teaching in art can be discovered outside of the classroom. You don't need to pay a college tuition to do it. So it's like what you're taking advantage of in college is someone has experiences, that can talk to you one-on-one, that can work with you, that can find the flow for you. If you're good, and that's my goal. I want to know each of my students individually and try to help guide each one of them to a better place to learn more, those kind of ideas. So that's the second class. And what I was saying, like, I really feel like what I want to do in the future, like the path that I want to go eventually, hopefully sooner than later, is I want to be a foundation specialist. I want to be a drawing, 2D design, especially 3-dimensional design, happy to do as well, but drawing and 2D design foundations first. Like, I would love to have two foundation drawing classes and 2 foundation 2D design classes, and that's what I do for the rest of my career, or whatever. Maybe not 2, maybe not 4 classes every semester, but like maybe 3, 2, an alternate between that kind of, or maybe like one of each. Maybe I teach drawing, 2D and 3D every semester. I have one of each. That would be amazing. That would be amazing now that I think about it. Like, if I could find a way, because I know, well, from my experience, some universities are big enough to have foundations be a department all in itself. Some universities, the foundations are just kind of picked up, like someone from another department will teach the foundation. Some universities have their graduate students teach foundations. There's a lot of variety of how it works, but some universities have like a foundations is a department, and I could see myself really enjoying just being that, because I really like that initial conversation of, especially for a lot of students, of what it means to be an artist, like plant those seeds of like what it means to be an artist and what it means to be an artist in a university, what it means to be an artist. It's like, yeah. So, and definitely feeling, I definitely, I could say, I have knowledge in graphic design. It's fine, all that stuff, but I don't see myself digging in and being like a full-time graphic design professor for the rest of my life. I'd rather have more conversations about art as a whole than graphic design specifically, because I feel like there's a lot of students that just see it as a career. They don't see it as a personal expression, and I want to try to break through to those students to say, like, even though you're doing graphic design, you're still a creative person. You still did this for, reasons of artistic expression. Don't forget that and find that and nurture that part of this whole experience. So my third class so those are my two on Monday and Wednesday. My Tuesday and Thursday classes are, first one is typography, really small class, 5 people. So it's like, going back to what I was saying about the energy of the classroom, this will just be a quiet class just because it's so small, we'll see how it develops through the semester, but it'll be interesting. I'm learning, again, this was the class that, like, one of the things that happened for me, up to the start of Monday, up till like when I got hired till Monday, I was planning, I was organizing, I was doing everything I needed to do as best I could. I've talked in the past how, like, there's only so much I can do, because there's just that, until I'm actually experiencing it, I can't complete it. And this is a good example of that idea. Like typography, like, I had some ideas for the project and stuff, but I don't know specifically what level each of the students are at with the different programs, with different ideas. So it's like I couldn't complete the class until I kind of knew where they're at. And so I got a little bit more information of where they're at. So I kind of I'll be tweaking the classes all the time throughout the whole semester, but I had tweaked this one right out the gate. This is the best example for me of not really knowing what to do until the class started. But basically trying to find out their comfort level with the tools, like, what's their comfort level with the tools? Am I able to just go, here's the concept, go? Or am I going to have to go like, oh, here's the concept and here's how to use the tool to create the concept? And so I'm still trying to figure that out. And it feels like there's some of that required in this class. We're going to have to do like a little crash course or reminder of different ideas in Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, the 3 main programs we'll be using. So there'll be some, okay, this is how you use the tools, as well as now let's make this with it. And we'll see how it goes. See if I might need to, we'll see how it goes, because I don't really know at what level. Some of the students seem like they're pretty well adapt. Some of the students seem like they might need a little bit more time with the tool before they're really able to apply it. So we'll see where it goes out, and then I'll adjust how I'm grading them and different things like that. Because I mean, if you're still working on how to use the tool, I mean, if you just picked up, I don't know. The analogy for some reason I'm thinking of is like, if it's the first time you're shooting a bow and arrow, you can't expect them to hit the bullseye. It's like, so how close to the bullseye do they get? What are they doing? It's like, so I don't know how much I can expect them to hit the bullseye with these concepts. But we'll build the class together, and it should be fun. The next class on Tuesdays and Thursdays is my seniors that are doing this class called Brand Identity, which should be fun. And again, we've already made adjustments to that class a little bit. Like, I was going to start with this project, this kind of chocolate bar project that I brought from my packaging design class that I've taught before. But then as I've been thinking about, they're all seniors and getting ready to kind of get out of here, they should all have some kind of their own logos and stuff. So we're going to use their own brand identity as an initial starting of the class. And then we're going to do this larger brand identity project and a lot of research based. So again, adjustment, like they can either pick, they're going to be able to pick between designing kind of their own brand identity for when they need to use it for letterheads and resumes and different things, and websites, or they can do the chocolate bar project if like they already have enough of their own, or they don't want to waste the time in class on their own stuff. They can have another project for their portfolio, because I don't really feel like you can have your own brand identity as your own portfolio work. It's just because it's already on everything. It's like, I don't know, maybe you can, maybe some people do, I don't know. I think that it would be better to have it not be that, but maybe I'm wrong. If you are a graphic design professor or a person in graphic design, it's like, no, you could totally use your own brand identity as a portfolio piece as well. I don't know. It just feels awkward. It feels awkward to me. And then the last class, every Thursday, 1 day a week, I have this class called Senior Capstone, which is basically what I kind of took it as grad school. We called it professional practices. It's where we get our resumes and cover letters and all those things together, websites. And then, so here's another piece that I'm going back to what I said about before with the technology and buying Adobe Creative Cloud. So they're all seniors, they're all getting ready to graduate, and only there's 18 in this class. So I think there's like 16, there's 18 in that class. I think there's around 16 in the design, the brand identity class. And then, like I said, there's 5 in the typography class. There's 18, maybe 19. Actually, I think there might be 19 in the in the senior capstone class. And I asked them all. So this is a good example of circle. So I wasn't sure how this was going to play out. This is the class that's kind of consuming the most of my kind of anxiety in a way, because I know I don't come from a traditional graphic design background. I don't come from that kind of, working for a firm type of thing. I don't know. I've never been in those environments. So, and a lot of the students want to go that direction. So I just have to teach them based on what I've picked up on talking to other people. But I'm also like, the way you might write your letters and write your cover letters and write your resumes. Like, example, like artist, thankfully for me, an artist, and you probably know this if you're a professor, you write a CV, curriculum vitae, whatever it's called, I don't know, CV. You write a CV versus a traditional more resume. But graphic designers kind of sounds like and looks like they kind of write a more traditional resume, which I can't stand writing resume. I just like, one of the things I told when I took this class, we had this questionnaire at the beginning of the class that said like just different things. One of the questions is, what do you want to do with, in the future or something? And what I said was, I never have to want to give somebody my resume. And I was thinking about it, because it's like, I'd rather just be hired through word of mouth or something like that. And thinking about it now, when I was applying for all these teaching jobs, I was like, I'm kind of giving people my resume, but I'm not, because I don't have to write a resume. I'm writing a CV. So I've actually manifested this still. It's like, okay, I'm not, even though I am applying to things, I have to put all this stuff together, I'm not giving a resume. And so it's just like, I didn't even know at the time that would be the reality, the CV. And to me, the CV is so much better than the resume in terms of how it resonates with me. And so it's just interesting. So anyways, we'll be through the class, we'll be doing that kind of stuff. And the one thing that figuring out, like, what am I allowed to demand of them? Because I want them all to have a website. Am I allowed to demand that they have to pay for a website? I mean, it's like $25 a month. If you do like Squarespace or something like that, you get a domain. I'll have to look at the different prices. But what if somebody's pushed back, like, I don't want to spend any money? It's like, well, then we can't proceed as a class. But maybe I can have them do like a PDF versions of their website. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So it's ready. They'll basically have a PDF. Yeah, okay, thanks. We worked this out together. Though anybody that can't afford to buy a website will have to do a website as a PDF. That's what I'm going to do. All right. So that's kind of what's been going on. I don't know. There's, like I said, it's already 40 minutes. This is going to be a long podcast today, my friends. This is going to be a long one. Maybe I'll put a note. I'll go back to the beginning and say this is going to be a long one, but you'll see it. You'll see it as well at the timer. But this is great. This has been great. It's been great. So like, and then the second day, so that was, the first day was the get to know. The second day, so I said the whole week is really setting up the foundation, like the mindset foundation for the courses. We talk a little bit about the projects and things like that, get a little sense of what we'll be doing, but it's really about the environment. We're setting the tone of the class, the tone of the environment. So the first day is all about community building, getting to know each other. And I say this over and over. It's like, I'm a firm believer you have to kind of speak it into existence. You can't expect something to happen if you're not talking about it. And so I'll say all the time, we're here to build community. Just saying that word over and over and over, I mean, hopefully we'll eventually sink in and we'll find ways to do that as a group, those kind of concepts. But then the second day of classes is the day that I just explained who I am. I shared my artwork. Went very different than I did last year when I taught my classes. Last year, I didn't really share my work. I just kind of talked about the syllabus and overall kind of concepts of the ideas. I shared a lot about who I am, but I didn't share my work as like a PowerPoint slideshow. But this time I started with like sharing my work as a PowerPoint slideshow in a way, but I also had like questions. I asked almost all my students, I think all my classes, like how they define art. And then I told them how I define art. And it just kind of, each one was unique though. It was kind of cool because I was worried that sometimes if I repeat the same things, I stumble over myself. But each class, based on how I presented, I would talk about it slightly different because of what each class was. And I'd magically, in a way, made it relate to each class. And I kind of was like happy about it and sort of proud of myself for it. And it was like reminding myself, I am very capable to teach all these people, all these young adults, what they need to know, because I have experience in all of it. And sometimes I can't see my own experience sometimes. And so that was great. And then went over just kind of the format of the class, the syllabus, important dates, things like that. But really, to get an hour, it took me the entire hour and 50 minutes to do it, and that wasn't even enough. There's stuff that I'm gonna have to fill in on the first, the beginning of the classes throughout the semester with things I wasn't even able to talk about, like something I really like to talk about, or just like resources at the school and other things. And then also like registering to vote is really important to me, and those kind of ideas. I didn't even mention that to any of my classes, so that's gonna be the first thing I'm gonna talk about next week. The beginning of every one of my classes is going to be like register to vote, like let's make that happen and things like that. So that's what's going on there. But I told I think every one of my classes, I said something along the lines of, this day right here is my favorite thing. I love being able to talk to you about who I am and let you know authentically who I am. You get a really good sense of who I am. And we don't just jump into like, here's the lessons, learn it, go. And I'm just kind of like, don't really let you into who I am. It's very important to me that the students know who I am, and I think I set some groundwork and a good foundation to let them know, especially, I stress over and over that going back to community, but also making sure that they know I'm there to be there. I'm there to be of service to them. And how can I accommodate that? Whatever it means. It could mean learning more about being a better artist, or it could be, I don't know, my parents are going through a divorce and I don't know what to do. Can I talk to you? Whatever. I don't know. Whatever it might be. My parents went through a divorce around that time, around when I was in college. And it, you might think, oh, you should be older, and it maybe doesn't. It crushed me. It crushed me. It messed up my world. And so like, yeah, and other things. And I've been divorced. I have kids. I've done odd jobs. I've done a lot of different things. I've moved around the country. I feel like I have a lot to offer that goes way above and beyond just the title of the class, just the subject of the class. So, and I want to make sure the students know that, because I'm there to, whatever knowledge I have, whatever it comes from, I want to share it. And if it can be helpful to my students, I want them to have it. And going back to being an artist, reminding ourselves that we are artists through this whole process. And for me personally, I don't have a distinction between when my art stops and when my life starts. For me, it's all hopefully it's apparent that this conversation right here I'm having with you is art. It is part of my art, just for the sheer fact of creating something. I'm creating a podcast, but it's like we're having a conversation about something that, in my opinion, matters. And then I'm able to share with you who I am, and that's my art. That's the art. I know a lot of artists like to make something, put it and then out somewhere, and kind of not be try to let the art totally speak for itself in a way, and kind of they want to hide in a way from that. They want to just have it separate. I'm not like that, and I understand some people are, and you may be that way. You may want to keep yourself separate from your art. I'm just not that way. Yeah, not that way. So a little more the way, so the timing. So you got a sense of the classes. You got a sense of how I started the first week. Starting this upcoming Monday, we're going to be doing more we're going to be diving into the projects. We're going to start the projects. We're going to start making stuff. The other thing, just learning for the flow, how is my personal, I talked a little bit about hopefully allowing the students to get into their flow as studio art classes and things and how is my flow going to work? I'm not entirely sure yet right now. So my first class starts at 1:00 on Monday. So Mondays and Wednesdays, I start at 1:00. There's another class inside my classroom right before my class. There's only a 10-minute gap between the end of that class and the start of my class. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, there's another class in my room right before me, only a 10-minute gap until my class starts, and then only another 10-minute gap until the next class starts. So that's really tight. Right now, I'm not excited about that. I don't like having to feel frantic about getting things together, and that's creating some franticness between classes. I don't like it. I like there to be more breath. I really like to be able to get to my classroom an hour before class, set it up, and just have the environment and if students want to come early, they can come early, start working, different things like that. But how everything is packed on top of each other will be interesting. It'll be interesting to navigate, and I'll have to figure out my office is inside of the class. So my office is attached to the classroom and I have to go all the way through my classroom to get to my office. And so there's no doorway just to get to my office externally from the classroom, which is a little bit of a bummer. I'm used to it from San Diego State. Was tons of that kind of stuff. You had to go through a lot of rooms to get to different offices and things like that. So I'm not intimidated by it, and I'll do it, but I just preference wise, I would prefer not to have to, because I don't know. I would just prefer not to have to. The other, but then it's what I've recognized now is that I've been getting up kind of early, 6:30, 7. Maybe that'll start to shift again, depending on how I set up my space and different things as time goes on. But that's a long time between getting up and having my first class. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with myself in that that time, Mondays and Wednesdays, figuring out what to do with myself. Whether that's stay here, eventually I'll have a space on campus to make art, whether that's making art here maybe. But I have a hard time with since the classes have such a priority for me, I have a hard time trying to do something before them. I'm much easier making my own work after my classes, having my classes be the first thing I do every day. So I may just allow myself like meditation time, really big chunks of meditation time. I'll probably go down to campus fairly early. Eventually I'll have a space in this, the basement they call the pit. I'll have a space down there where I'll have I can make art and things. So maybe on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll just, whenever I feel like it, I'll just get up and go to the school campus and just sit in the pit, in my space down there, and make art or listen to music or whatever it might be. Just be down there until my first class, and I'll go up for my first class. Yeah, we'll see. So that's kind of the flow. This on Tuesdays, it's my office hours start at 9, so I get in there at 9. There is actually another class in my room again during that time. My office hours start at 9. This class starts at 9:30. I think goes till like 10:50 or so. Yeah, I think it goes till 10:50. My class starts at 11. So it's just, office hours. Students will just have to walk through a class if it's still in there. They're talking about trying to move that class to another place, which may or may not happen. It's kind of not a big deal, sort of. But then luckily between my first class and my second class on Tuesdays, there's an hour gap between the classes, which I love. Love just getting one class shut down, the next class set up. It allows me, time to, just kind of relax and kind of readjust my mind for the next class. And then, so that's what's happening there. And then on Thursdays by itself, there's my one last class is right after that class, but that's only for 50 minutes. The senior capstone professional practice class. And Thursdays is going to be my long day, because then after that class, I have office hours again. We were required to have 7 hours of office hours. So we're doing that. And then what I'm planning to do is stay on campus till maybe like 10 o'clock. I haven't decided I was thinking more like 11 at first, but it might be earlier. I might do like 10. But hopefully what I want to inspire my students to do is come to my classroom from 5 till 10, just as a extra time to have access to me. If nobody shows up, I'll go down to the pit and work. I'll just make it like Thursday is going to be my day to be on campus the entire day, and hopefully not burn myself out while doing it. I'll prep from next week. I'll work on my own work. If students are in my class in the space working, I'll work with them, and it'll just be this space to really have 100% dedicated to what I need to do to accomplish my things. Yesterday was Thursday for me. It was my first time. I was, hopefully my rhythm will get such that I won't feel too tired to do that day, because I was pretty much done. I stayed at my office out. I couldn't think about prepping classes and different things. I did a little bit of prep, just kind of like from fiddling around, but I wrote down, basically the prep that I did was writing down what I need to do today. Today I have like a couple things written down, a bunch of stuff written down saying over Friday and Saturday, here's a bunch of stuff I need to finish up. And then so for Sunday, hopefully Sunday, I will have nothing. I'll just be sitting doing nothing. That's my goal for Sundays. When football season starts up, I'll be watching football and those kind of things. But just nothing going on Sundays. And then Monday comes around again. They start it all over. And then down the line, I'm thinking maybe Saturday will be my personal art. I'll make sure I'm making art here. I'll kind of be dabbling with art on campus from Monday through Thursday, but especially depending on how Thursday plays out. So I'm feeling like, definitely the job part of being this artist professor, the job part is going to consume a lot of my time and energy, especially now because I'm building out all these classes for the first time. It's just going to take a lot of, I'll be building out things. I think there'll be more gaps now because we'll start projects and then I'll have, a few weeks before the next project has started. At some point, I'm going to need to also look at what I'm going to be responsible for next semester. And if there's anything new there I have to start. I think I have at least one class that's going to cross over. I'm hoping that maybe I can do digital photography again, because I know it's offered both semesters and my other counterpart in the graphic design department switches, but I'm hoping that maybe I can just teach that again, just to take the burden off of learning something new again. If I could swap out a class with her. Yeah. So, anyways, that's a little. We'll probably talk more about how the flow ends up going as I kind of keep going. But again, I've said this before. For me, it's very, very important not to allow myself to get too tired, and not be making work for myself. Like, if I'm not making work for myself, honestly, I don't want to continue doing this. If I'm not doing for myself, it's fun to be. I mean, I love being an art professor. But my goals are to be an artist. That's my main goal. So if it feels like it's taking up too much of my energy and time to do that, then eventually I'll have to make an adjustment. But we'll see. We'll discover together how I can continue my practice as an artist, and how it goes with this much. I imagine it. Right now it's really hard to tell because I am building out all these classes. It's like there's so much new that it's requiring a lot of my attention and time, which is fine. It's just like perfect is the way it should be. And maybe down the line I'll have a bunch, in like a couple years from now I'll have a lot of, so no matter where I work or whatever's going on, I get hired as like, oh, you need to teach me that class? Okay, great. I've done it before. This is how I do it. Oh, you want to make sure that this is part of it? Okay, great. I tweak something different. But it's not like 0 to 100. It's like, oh, I'm at 80 already. Let's get to 100. Kind of thing. Here's a couple of other things that I mentioned, or I wrote down. I have four more things written down. Easier once the semester has started. We already kind of talked about that. It was definitely easier. It's easier. It was like something. It's like the anxiety or whatever it is, up till Monday. Once Monday hit, the abstractness of being a professor kind of stopped, and it kind of started to click into place. Like things are starting to like, okay, we're in the flow now. It's like the waiting is over, we're in it. So it really did. It was a tangible experience. Like, okay, let's go. The anxiety of worrying about how other people might think, it's like too late. It's too late. We're doing it. If another professor has a problem with the way that I do my classes, well, too late, kind of. I mean, maybe I'll course correct as time goes on, but that's a big anxiety for me, is thinking about, am I doing it in the approval of how another professor would think about it, or how the school in general would think about it. I mean, I have high confidence of that I'll give my students a AAA education, and they'll be better off for it by the time they're done with my classes. And I don't know if someone in the institution would think, well, I wouldn't have done it that way, and it would become a problem. I don't know. But I gotta let that go. Just go like, hey, let's go. One thing that I think is super important, here's a big tip. Now, I might actually make this the title of this podcast today, is don't try to read students. Do not try to. I've learned this last year. I learned this, and this year I was reminded of it while I was doing my lectures and talking to the students. It's like you have to have sort of a thick skin is not the right word, but the concept of having a thick skin. Like, you can't let whatever you think the students are projecting, like whatever you're interpreting their projection of, you can't think what that really means. And I've ran into trouble with it before, because I like to be a little sarcastic and stuff, and different things. And so like I might say something, in the past I might say something, oh, this student hates me right now or something. It's not the case at all. They have their own, they have multiple classes they're worried about. They have their social life they're worried about. They have so much going on that they're giving you as much as you deserve. They're giving you as much attention as you deserve, considering how much whatever else they have in their life. So when you're talking to them, it's like you can't try to predict the way that they're interacting with you as a judgment on you or what they think about you, because they got, like all of us, have so much going on in our lives, and they're still developing as humans, about appropriate ways to interact with people and different things like that I would say just try your best to avoid any like reading of, like, if trying to interpret an eye, a look, a gesture, a way, a thing they said. Like if you avoid trying to interpret anything, just if you need a straight answer, if you need to figure something out, use your professional and world and life experience to go and find a way to ask them to get that information as direct as possible. But you can't try to interpret what they might be thinking or saying or doing. It'll just get you in trouble, and it'll be weird. So that's my biggest piece. That's a really big piece of advice for anybody. And it could even be somebody that's been at this game for a while that maybe is kind of taking it for granted or starting to learn something about themselves and how they've been interpreting things and realizing they've been over interpreting their students too much, and it's like, maybe I shouldn't be trying to interpret my students. Or maybe like you think, as a professor that's been doing it for a while, you've seen a lot, so you think you know a lot, so you think every student group is going to react similar the same way. And it's definitely evolving. I mean, it's evolving since when I was an undergrad till now. Undergrads are very different. Obviously we have technology difference. We just had a pandemic we went through. There's just so much difference going on in life that sometimes it's easy for us to misinterpret. So I would try to avoid trying to read. What I said is read your students, but try to interpret your students. Just try to get the straight of information as possible, however you need to do that. If it means sitting down with them and asking them direct questions, or it means like, I don't know, whatever it might mean for you. But yeah. Oh, and I need a place to sit before class, but I've already kind of addressed that with like, how am I gonna, with the schedule and how tight things are, and having classes overlap my kind of office hours and just be butted up right against my other classes. Like, I value that time to sit before the class starts. So I'm gonna have to figure out where that happens. And it probably will happen in my little area in the basement of the art school. All right. This is actually not as long as maybe I thought it was going to be. We're about an hour deep. I'll probably edit down some of what I talked about. My goals for now to the rest of today is I have to work on my classes for next week, get ready, get some of my projects a little more tweaked out, get some presentations ready. So I'll be doing that for most of today and Saturday. Sunday, taking the day off. Hopefully I won't have anything to do on Sunday. And then, but if you are enjoying this conversation, I would definitely share it around with other people that are maybe, that might be interested in being an art professor. Maybe people that are already art professors that you're like, hey, check this guy out. He seems to be doing something cool. Let them know. Be sure to follow me on YouTube for sure. Subscribe, follow on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, I really do appreciate the support. We're trying to grow this party, so keep it growing with us, and look out for more content on the channel coming up every week. Every Friday is the goal to publish one of these podcasts. So this is number 5. Yeah, this is podcast number 5, and I think today's title is "Don't Try to Read Your Students." I think that's what it is. It might be, and also first week. I'll do that. Don't try to read your students, and first week. All right, my friends, thanks so much for the support, and as always, be loving, kind, and patient. Peace.